Thank you very much for all of you who are here and listen to my talk. And in the meantime, while I was talking on the screen, I got some questions, and if there is no others, I am happy to answer those. Or in the meantime, you can also ask questions, and I will try to do my best to answer your questions. So the very first question was if I can say how to make disadvantaged, gifted children or youngs or adults resilient and to withstand, for instance, unfair treatment or to withstand the disadvantaged circumstances and still continue and try to do their best. And of course, this is a highly complex question, and there is no simple answer to that. But what I find very important, in fact, is my last message on the last slide of my talk, which tries to make understand that when somebody is really in an unfair position, for instance, it's unfair to be poor as well. It's because a poor child simply cannot participate in activities, many of those courses, many of those programs that an advantaged child can participate in. So first, I think the very important thing is to get through this pain and to accept, quote, that this is the case. This doesn't mean, as I said, that all those who are responsible for making changes shouldn't work for that. But the particular individual has to realize that this is the case. So this is something they cannot control. Circumstances they don't necessarily can control, but what they can control, how they react to it. And it has to be reinforced that there is a responsibility in them, there is a control in them. And this control is that in spite of all the unfair treatment, in spite of humiliation, in spite of others shouting cheater when you don't cheat, you have to do your best, because this is your only kind of weapon. This is the only thing that can make a change when in the surrounding you cannot make a change. Of course, it's very important that there has to be an institutional surrounding. There has to be NGOs. There have to be teachers. There have to be community people. There have to be politicians who work for supporting disadvantaged people, but the disadvantaged person himself or herself can only do what she can do or he can do in his or her capacity. So this is, I think, a very important message that don't be threatened by others' unfair treatment. Just continue. And that's why I brought the quotations from the highly accomplished adults, because several of them, as you could see, they really come from disadvantaged families or disadvantaged background for certain reasons, for religious background or for an undereducated family background or being discriminated for political reasons. But all of them, you may have seen, they said, this is unfair, but I will prove that I don't deserve this unfair treatment. I will do my best what I can to prove that this is not, they cannot destroy me. Now, you can ask, okay, how do you give this strength where did these people get these strengths? I'm not sure I can give you a really convincing answer to that. That's why I brought some biological potential disposition that may help, of course. That's why I told you that of course experiencing that you are good, you can make it, can give you a kind of confidence which can be carried through different kinds of unpleasant situations. So it's very difficult, but first of all, I think the understanding that you don't wait until the world changes around you. Try to do your best and try to do everything in your capacity to show the world that you are not the one that the world tries to treat you as a person. So that's what I could say. Now, there was another question about does this have any relationship with considering your abilities and capacities as given or changeable? And of course, I think, yes, there is. Of course, that also, I mean, I was thinking about there are given circumstances that you cannot change, but there are certain things you can change in your own attitude. That's what you are responsible for. That's where you have control. And from it's very important that not you, I mean, all those people, all of us, in fact, but also the disadvantaged young people can have this feeling that I can change. That's important. Now I have to check what was the third question, and here I see there is another question. Do I understand it right? Competitiveness is considered to be good and healthy. There is not one competitiveness. You may remember that I presented two dimensions. One is self-developmental competitiveness and the other is hyper-competitiveness. And in addition to that, I also showed the pattern complex competitiveness. Yes, I think that complex competitiveness and self-developmental competitiveness are healthy. I don't only think this, I can prove it with research results. As you may remember that these two types of competitiveness, they highly correlate with all the positive protective, psychological protective factors like resilience, positivity, mental toughness, self-efficacy, and so on. So these are healthy, positive type of competitiveness. When it comes to hyper-competitiveness, that can be a destructive type of competitiveness. However, there are certain situations and cases when, for instance, a young person is really treated unfairly, sometimes can be a kind of behavioral reply to this being hyper-competitive, which implies aggression, which implies a really too intensive willingness to win, and in order to win, doing whatever you can, sometimes on yourself, applying unfair means, and so on and so on. So there is another reply to this. We try to diminish competitiveness in our gifted kids and teach them to cooperate and use their strengths to help others, not to beat them in competition. Now, this implies a notion that competitiveness and cooperativeness, or competition and cooperation, are opposites. That's not the case. There is a notion of cooperative competitiveness, for instance, and the self-developmental competitors and also the complex competitors are able to cooperate with others. They are not contradictory. They don't exclude each other. So it doesn't, if I compete with somebody, I don't cooperate. Have you ever competed with your best friend or with your friend? Let's, for instance, let's compete which one of us learns to ride a bicycle faster. This is with your friend. I mean, you don't cheat, you you think this is fun, you both enjoy it, and you may even help your friend when, for instance, your friend falls from the bicycle. So cooperation and competition, if the relationship between the competitive parties is honest, is open, and the competition is played by the rules, it's not against cooperation at all. So if you teach cooperativity, you will not exclude by that competition. Competition is there. There is social comparison. We compare ourselves. Many times we want to be better than others, but that doesn't mean that we want to exclude others from our life, or for instance, what I found among Japanese, they speak about competing and improving mutually with each other, meaning that I compete with you, so I stimulate you, and you compete with me, and you stimulate me. So we are cooperating in stimulating each other in improvement by competition. So it's not necessary to think about these as contradictory terms. Of course, there are, so for instance, hyper-competitiveness doesn't go together with cooperation with the rival. So there is not, what I would like to emphasize, there is not one kind of competitiveness. There are different patterns of competitiveness, and some of them are really constructive, really contributing to your psychological health. We have research on this, and it's proved. But there are certain type of competitiveness which really destroy your relationship with others. They are really destructive, or they may have really psychological and somatic negative consequences. So it depends on. Is there any other question? Yes, what do you advise teachers, just a minute, at public schools to do towards closing the achievement gap? Do you think our role as teachers is important? I suppose, not suppose, I am basically convinced that teachers' role is extremely important, because, for instance, just going back to my very first case study with the little boy, when the others were shouting cheater, I mean, we were observers, we were in the researcher's position, so we were not able to intervene in this situation. But the teacher who experienced this situation, she has the role to intervene. And it's very important how the teacher handles this situation, and how protects the child, and how to discuss with the group of competitors what happened here, and how you reacted, and how you have to be able to acknowledge if somebody is better than you, but how you have to be fair with others, and also how to let's say reinforce the child who is attacked, that you are there for him, and you shouldn't be frightened of this losing his initiative, but again, to continue and not give up. Yes, thank you very much. Somebody, Atina, let's say, praised my talk, and let me see if there is any other. Maybe go about competing with oneself. That's interesting. Tamara says that competing with oneself. It's interesting because it's a metaphor, competing with ourselves. In fact, if you really want to define what competition is, it's always with somebody outside of you, okay? Competing with yourself is more like achievement motivation. So when you compete with yourself, you set a goal, and you want to reach it, and you want to reach even more. Then if you manage to do that, then you may set another goal, a new goal, and you want to reach it and overcome it again. That's achievement motivation. we speak about competition when there is always another party, and when you want to reach your goal, you can reach that goal, for instance, being better, only in case you take into consideration the achievement of the other person as well. So when you are both competing with yourself, you are in relationship only with your goal. When you compete with somebody, you are in relationship with your goal and with another person, with your competitor as well. Okay, thank you for your lecture. Thank you for such an informative talk. Thank you, Paula, very much. Thank you very much, really. So, is there any other new question or remark? Maybe no. I don't see any more. So then, thank you very much for all your attention, and thank you very much for your remarks and questions, and I wish you a very good conference from today on for 4 days. It's a long conference, and we are very happy that so many people registered and want to participate. So bye bye.